Africa's EV story doesn't start with a Tesla, it starts with a Boda Boda. I don't have millions, but I'm learning to think like someone who does. When most people hear electric vehicles, they think about what's happening in Europe or America. They picture charging stations in quiet suburbs. They picture middle class commuters making a choice that's good for the planet. That's not African story. In Africa, the most important vehicle is not a car, it is a motorcycle. Across East and West Africa, these motorcycle taxis, which we call Boda Boda in either Kenya or Uganda or Okadas in Nairobi, are not a transport option. They are economic infrastructure. They move people to hospitals, to markets, to schools. They carry goods the trucks cannot reach. They are how tens of millions of riders earn a daily income, often their only income. And almost every single one of those motorcycles runs on petrol, which means that every time global oil prices spike, it's not just a headline. It is a rider somewhere in Kampala or Lagos watching a larger portion of their daily earnings go straight to a fuel station. The investment thesis here is not about clean energy, it's about economics. If you can give a commercial rider access to an electric motorcycle that cuts their daily fuel costs by 40%, they will switch. Not because of the climate, but because the math works in their favor. The question was never whether Africa will electrify its motorcycles. The question was who will build the infrastructure to make it practical. Because here is the problem with simply selling an electric motorcycle in Africa. A rider cannot park for 4 hours waiting for a battery to charge. That's 4 hours off the road, 4 hours of lost income. So the EV model designed for Europe doesn't work for someone earning per kilometer ridden. Battery swiping changes everything. A rider pulls in, swaps the depleted battery for a full one in under 2 minutes, and they keep moving. Suddenly, electric is not a sacrifice, it's an upgrade. And the company doing something about this is Spiro. So Spiro builds electric motorcycles and battery swapping infrastructure across Africa. And today it operates across seven different markets in Africa, so that's really huge. So the numbers are hard to dismiss. They have around 100,000 electric motorcycles on the road, 2,500 battery swipe stations, over 30 million battery swipes completed, and riders are saving $3 per day compared to running on petrol. And for you, sometimes if you listen to $3 per day, you think that that's such a small number. But if a rider basically earns between $10 to $15 a day, that is 20 to 30% more income in their pocket every single day. So the capital story of Spiro is actually quite significant, and this is where you need to pay attention. In June 2026, Spiro closed a 270 million funding round. So that is $215 million from institutional investors, including Impact Fund Denmark and Equitin, and a further 55 million from New Trails Capital, which is a Chinese growth fund with an office in Lagos. So the total disclosed funding is now around $557 million. And Spiro is actually approaching a 1 billion valuation soon. That the fact that Chinese growth capital is now coming into African electric motorcycle companies at this scale tells you something important about where serious global investors see the opportunity. So my mentor told me that if you really want to understand the world, or if you want to have a deeper or different perspective, look at how the Chinese are moving money. So try to see where they're putting that money and see what opportunity is actually there for you. So this is something that you should look into. So here is the part that really makes this more than just an EV company. Every swap station Spiro builds is just not a charging point, it's a point of recurring revenue. So a rider who depends on Spiro's battery network is recurring energy customer. So they are paying per swap. Every working day, for years. So more riders, they create more demand for stations. More stations make the network more convenient. More convenience drives adoption. And the loop compounds, you see now where the loop comes in. And then consider what comes next. Those same battery stations can power three wheelers, delivery fleets, small businesses, and households in areas where power grid is unreliable. So control the swapping stations and you control a new piece of energy infrastructure. If this thesis actually holds, if Africa continues moving towards electric two wheelers, if fuel costs stay high, if the economics keep working, Spiro is not just selling motorcycles, it's building the energy network for Africa's motorcycle economy. So the key takeaway here is investors who backed Spiro didn't start by asking, is this a good motorcycle company? They started by asking, what happens when fuel becomes too expensive for 30 million commercial riders across Africa? Then they found the company that built the answer. That is the investment thesis. The motorcycle came second. So, this is me learning that in real time.